Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and begin. It's my honor to introduce Congressman Kevin Brady, who considers it an honor to represent the 8th District in Texas, or of Texas, in Washington, D.C. Congressman Brady is a leader in Congress. He's a senior member of the House Ways and Means Committee, and many people consider that to be the most powerful committee in Congress because they have jurisdiction over taxes, health care, Social Security, Medicare, international trade, and welfare. Congressman Brady is a champion and author of the current bill to extend the research and development tax credit that is critical to medical device companies like us. He's also fighting to repeal the medical device tax that's being levied on us due to the Affordability Care Act. As Vice Chairman of the Joint Economic Committee, he has been the GOP leader on economic issues, including fighting White House efforts to raise taxes on families and businesses like ours. Congressman Brady commutes to Washington. He never moved there. He's logged over 2 million miles traveling back and forth so that he could continue to stay close to his constituents up in the woodlands and with his wife Kathy raise their 2 sons, Will and Sean. So please join me in giving Congressman Brady a warm welcome.
First, thank you very much for having me here today. We had a quick tour. Cyberonics is very impressive, just in the innovation you're doing, just the impact you're having on families and the potential globally as well as right here in Houston is really remarkable. You know, the fact that it's not just 25th anniversary, but the 15th anniversary of your FDA approval on VNS, which is one tells you how long that approval process is, but also just your challenge going forward. And I appreciate, Dan, too, your leadership in medical devices, the industry in the country. We're really facing a lot of challenges in an industry that has huge potential, not just today, but for job creation, innovation, leadership across the country. So, Dan, thanks for taking time out of your life in business to be able to lead at the national effort from Ways and Means Committee. Your industry is critical to the economy, so thank you for that as well. Let me real quickly go through a quick update. We do more than 50 town hall meetings a year. You know, my feeling is, one, it gives me a chance to update you on issues that affect your lives and your jobs. Secondly, I learn from them because I get ideas and comments about government. I always learn something about this government, the town hall meetings. And thirdly, for me, I want to help hold myself accountable to you, to those I work for. And so town hall meetings allow me to do that. And as Dan said, my wife and I, we didn't move from Texas. We live here. We have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. I've figured out my 2 million miles. I've just finished my 4th round trip to the moon commuting. That's a lot of airline food. So we'll go from here. There's 4 key things affecting you right now. The economy. We're facing a spending crisis. End of the year, we've got some issues that affect everybody in this room and every business in this country. And then the future of the President's health care plan. The May jobs report, 69,000. The last one on Friday, the June jobs report, 80,000. These are the fewest jobs in a year. Job growth has slowed by 2/3. We're doing much better here in Texas, but a lot of the country is not in these areas of business, consumer confidence down. Here we are 4.5 years after the recession began, 3 years after it ended, 41 straight months of employment now, above 8%. That's a record since World War II. We have the fewest numbers of workers in 30 years. We have more people who have just dropped out, just given up hope, looking for work. Our real unemployment rate is really above 11% in America because of all those who've just given up hope. Economic projections for the rest of this year have been cut, and we just, as of Friday, looking at the 10 recessions and recoveries since World War II. In modern times, the current recovery we're in is dead last in both job creation and economic growth. We've got to do better in a recovery than what we're doing today. Unemployment rate, when we passed the stimulus, I opposed it. I thought it was exactly the wrong solution to the economy, but we were told unemployment would be about 5.8%. Today, as you know, it's a lot higher, and officially it's about 11. We are far below average. If our recovery right now was just middle of the road, just the average, the way it's been for the last 70 years, 4 million more people would be going to work today. If it was one of the best, like the Reagan recovery of 1981, 1982, 7 million more Americans wouldn't be looking for a job today, they'd be going to a job today. We've got to do better than what we've got going right now. Let's skip this. Spending crisis. This is America's future if we don't change our ways. The red is our spending and our deficits going forward. Green is our tax revenue. We're right about here. As you can tell, the explosion of spending and deficits are just getting ready to go. The green is important because that's our revenue over the year. Historically, since World War II, again, there's peaks and valleys, but roughly, we generate about 19% of our economy, and we set it aside to fund the federal government. And when the recovery gets better, and it will, it'll recover to that amount. But look where the spending's headed. Two things you ought to know about this chart. One, it's clear you can't tax your way back to a balanced budget. Truth is, we could double everyone's taxes in America, you wouldn't balance the budget even this year. You could take every dime from the wealthy that they earned or ever dreamed of earning, you don't even make a dent in the deficit. To get back to living within our means, we've got to get control of the spending side. The other thing you need to know about this is how it relates to your family. Because we have young boys, I'm always thinking about, well, this is a nice chart. What's it mean? What this shows is that a baby born today in Clear Lake, their share of that red ink is already $47,000. A baby born today owes Uncle Sam a new Lexus. If we don't change our way, by the time they're 13, they'll owe a second. By the time they're 22 and they're finishing college and trying to get ready to start their lives, they'll owe a third. Now, good news is young people don't actually buy luxury sedans for Uncle Sam, but they pay the price a different way. They pay the price through a much more sluggish economy as your debt goes up, just like in your home, just like in your business. As more and more money gets siphoned to pay your credit cards and debt, less goes to your growth. Same in the country. So there's fewer jobs for young people. Taxes will be higher to pay for it. Interest rates will be higher. So this chart means for young people that when it gets time to start their life, there will be fewer jobs for them. And when they get that job, there'll be less money in their pocket as a result. So all this spending today has a huge impact on our children in the future. Looking ahead, this tax cliff, and I'm going through the quick version of all this. Some people think that at the end of the year, only taxes for the wealthy will go up. But in truth, taxes will go up for everybody in America, every income level, every age group, small business, big business, mom and pop operations, low income, high income, everyone in between. Right now, the tax relief that's already expired, the R&D tax credit, important to companies in our innovation society. I lead the effort in Congress to not only make this permanent, but to increase the size of it and make it modern, up to date. Right now, the base for the R&D tax credit is 1984. We need to make it last year. We need to make it current. State and local sales tax deduction, I lead that effort in Washington. That's where you and I, as Texans, can deduct our state and local sales taxes from what we owe Uncle Sam. Just like states that have a state income tax can deduct theirs. 7 years ago, we fought to give our states equal treatment. That saves you and me about $1.2 billion a year. We don't have to send that there. Depreciation, important for businesses investing in new equipment. International business, some of the provisions that affect the income you get from your sales out in the world. Biofuels, all that's already expired. At the end of the year, all the brackets, all rates will go up significantly. The alternative minimum tax, which if you haven't heard of it, you should be aware. It was created in the 1960s, sort of like the Buffett rule. It was designed to capture 155 wealthy families that Washington didn't think was paying their fair share. So they created a second tax to capture them. They didn't get them on the first one. Well, the problem is they never indexed. So today, if we don't stall that at the end of the year, the alternative minimum tax will affect about 31 million Americans. Families make above $75,000 as families. So you may now be considered some of the wealthy in America if you earn above that rate. The death tax, springs back to life. Payroll tax holiday ends. And here, capital gains, taxes on what you've invested go up. We're raising kids. If you do, the tax credit goes down, it makes it more expensive. Marriage penalty pops up to life. College tax credits expire, important if you send your kids. So all of that goes away December 31st. On Ways and Means Committee, we handle taxes. This is unprecedented. This has never happened in history, ever. And it's going to have a major impact. For our families in the 8th Congressional District, your average will be about $3,600 in higher taxes as a family. For seniors, if besides Social Security you live on dividends, that tax doubles, for some triples. So seniors will have less money in the bank to live on as well. It affects everybody. We're not waiting. Let me just say, Ways and Means Committee is not waiting. Next week, we're going to present to the House a bill that extends that those tax brackets to make sure we stop the tax hike at the end of the year. In addition, we're going to set a timetable. We think our tax code is uncompetitive and complex and frightening and unfair and filled with too many loopholes for all sorts of special interests. And so we're going to set a deadline for next year for a straight up or down vote to fix the tax code. In effect, we're going to force whoever's president, and we want to force whoever's in the Senate to do their job and give us a tax code that's a lot better than what we have today. At the end of the year, too, we've got these automatic spending cuts, a lot of them on defense, and the impact of it is pretty significant. We would send about 100,000 soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen packing from the surface, and that means we'd have the smallest ground force since World War II, the smallest number of ships since 1915, the smallest fighter force in the history. For Texas, what's that mean for our state? We're a huge military state. It means we would lose about 22,000 of our military from our state. And because we do so much defense work all throughout Texas, you're looking at a job loss of about 125,000. So that hits January 1st. And my guess is those major defense companies, by law, have to notify their workers that they could lose their jobs. My guess is in October, you're going to see a lot of layoff notices going out across this country because of these automatic spending cuts. In the House, we've already acted to stop them and replace them with other cuts that we think are a lot less important. We sent a bill over to cut almost $250 billion in savings out. This week, we're going to pass a bill that I've sponsored, forcing the White House to show us where those cuts are going to be made. We just think you need to know the whole truth about where these cuts are going to occur. By the way, I think the Pentagon wastes money. I've introduced a bill, the Cuts Act. It cuts a pretty fair amount out of defense, but it doesn't out of the troops. It protects the troops, protects the support for the troops and their families. But the way we buy things, the way we procure weapon systems and other things, terrible job, man. So my thought is, let's cut where we have fat, don't cut where we have the soldiers and where we have the military. Your new healthcare system, this is an organization chart of the healthcare law as amended by the Supreme Court. The way this came about is my joining founding committee, after that bill passed, all 2,800 and some pages, I had our economists spend 4 months, evenings, weekends, nights. I said, go through that whole bill, every provision, and put it on an organization chart for the American public to see. And this was the result. And as you can tell, it is probably not what you expected for the healthcare line. These are physicians, doctors. Over here are the patients. In between are 159 new federal agencies, bureaucracies, and commissions in between you and your doctor, overlaid on top of what we already have today. Everything in color is added by this bill except this. Secretary of Health and Human Services has amazing power. The blue is expanded government into healthcare. The orange are future rationing organizations, institutions designed not to deny you treatment, just to deny your doctor or hospital reimbursement for the treatment in the future. The green is $500 billion in cuts to Medicare, many of them to our seniors and community hospitals. The other part of the green are $500 billion of new tax increases. Bottom line is, IRS, Supreme Court ruling was the wrong ruling for the wrong reason. And I think create a roadmap for the federal government to compel you to buy anything they choose as long as they force with the tax. But here's the problem. IRS will hire up to 16,000 new federal agents to force everyone in America to comply with IRS or with the new president's health care plan. What we really need are about 16,000 more doctors, to see people in healthcare, not revenue agents. Bottom line is, we couldn't fit all the bureaucracy on the chart. This only represents 1/3 of the new bureaucracy. So I think the president was right to tackle healthcare reform. I think the solution they end up with is going to end up driving up healthcare costs. It's going to damage the economy. We already know that. I think at the end of the day, we're going to have fewer doctors and fewer nurses to see patients on Medicaid and other areas. I just think there was a better way. We'll finish with this. What the Supreme Court basically said was, look, we can't save Americans from their political choices. That you decide the ballot box what these issues are going to be. And so come November, they really sort of pushed it back to you and me. And I think the 3 key questions when you vote from next November is, first one is the problem is that the government spends too much? Or is the problem it takes too little of your income? Because every issue in Washington today is that debate. Higher taxes or getting control of spending. You're going to make that decision by whom you elect at every level. Another big question, how large a government do you want? And how much are you willing to pay for it? Because at the end of the day, you guys shell it out for this government. You make that call. And the final point, obviously, because Supreme Court, do you want the president's health care law to stand as the law of the land? It will be largely decided at the ballot box. With that, I want to stop and take some questions on this issue. Anything else we need to have on our radar? Because we know within the president's health care plan, for example, the medical device tax, which is right down here, that puts at risk about 40-some thousand U.S. jobs. More importantly, from a knowledge and a patent and innovation risk, creates even more problems going forward for Cyberonics, for other companies as well. So let's stop. Do you do an antidepressant drug? Because we may need, with the group to be able to.
We do have VNS for depression. FDA's approved it. We need reimbursement.
Questions, issues, things we need to be thinking about.
Device tax. What's going to happen?
We've passed out of the House to block it. The Senate's not going to take action on it. So, and I doubt that it will be part of that end of the year negotiation. So I really think the future of the device tax will be determined by how we wake up Wednesday, November 7th, the day after the election. Who's in the White House and who has control of the House and Senate, I think will largely determine if we can repeal that tax. I wish I had a better answer, but that is the truth. You guys at the ballot box will decide if companies like yours did function.
So what do you think it would take to get this repealed, from an election standpoint?
You need, the answer is it won't be easy. You need to have a different White House. Clearly the president feels strongly about his law. And The Senate is going to be close either way, regardless of who holds control of it. And so it will be a challenge to repeal it, but doable. But because so much of the regulation, so much of the funding is already out, it will probably take a solid 2 years of work to move this back. What we'd like to see is a clean slate, so you can start with real fundamental reform that focuses on price first, because that's the problem. It's just so expensive. Healthcare is so expensive. And take it step by step, the way our medical center has recommended we do it to make healthcare work better. But it's going to be, it will not be an easy task. Yes, sir.
Is it repeal or nothing, or is there an opportunity to scale the tax back, safe harbors for smaller companies or simplification?
Well, you know that if the president's health care law stands, I'm sure there'll be efforts along those ways. But I really think the way it's designed with medical devices, for example, it's not an income tax. It hammers you whether you are making money or losing it hand over fist. So my guess is it's going to be harder for you to do your next innovation product. It's going to be very hard for startup companies to be able to come up with that, even get a shot at that new life-saving device or treatment. So, yeah, I actually think there's no real way to fix the medical device tax without the same type of damage. What do you think?
I agree, repeal or not. Just wanted to, there's rumors for startup companies that don't have any profit but have revenue.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe you exclude the first 100 million was the number that was tossed out there.
You know, it seems to me, you know, if you have a job at a startup company or if you have a job at a Cyberonics that's been here 25 years, your job still matters. You know, we shouldn't be imposing taxes regardless of the size of the company you're at. Your job still matters regardless of where you're at. So, yes, ma'am.
The solution that you described, it seems to me, requires some level of bipartisan cooperation, and I'm just wondering if you can provide any glimpse of hope to us that you're seeing that, or that you believe it can happen.
You know, I believe the question was about bipartisanship. And you're right, the major issues really require both parties to come together. And if that's the case, I know we need that for Social Security, which is in real trouble. I know we need that bipartisanship on Medicare, which is the single biggest challenge to America. We've got to preserve it. And on issues like this, including tax reform, you've got to have both parties come together. The Constitution says, you know, the president proposes, but the House passes its idea, the Senate passes its idea, and you meet and work out the difference. Right now, that's not happening. We've passed 30 different bills to either defund, replace, or stop the medical device tax. They're all sitting in the Senate. We've passed, I think, $20 trillion of cuts to lower that red ink. Almost all of it's still sitting in the Senate. I don't care what idea the Senate has, just send one. You know what I mean? Just get it out so we can have what the Constitution required us to have, which is a chance to work to solve it. You know what I mean? You really need the Constitution to work to get these things done. I'm hopeful after November, regardless of the outcome, that there will be an effort to at least get those ideas moving.
So why is that happening in the Senate, in your opinion, as to why nothing's moving at all? They're waiting for the election?
Yeah, two things. One, the Senate's very tightly held, so it's hard, you know, it could go either way, which means they don't want any votes on anything that would get anyone in trouble anywhere. You know, so, you know, plus, yeah, plus, it's so encouraging about the citizens. The other thing, too, obviously, they're a blocker for the president. You know, so with the House passing legislation, you know, working with the president, that's sort of a blocker mechanism right now. So, and again, the ballot box makes those decisions. You know, the public decides. You want divided government, you know, who do they send to make decisions? Comes back to us. Can I ask this? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we obviously depend a lot on Medicaid and Medicare. What's being done to kind of protect the security of those, especially, you know, as the budget for certain states?
Yeah, Medicaid is going to be a challenge just because it's just under the health care plan, almost half of all the new people covered are under Medicaid, which A, is not a very good system, B, very expensive for the states. They're putting a teaser rate in place. You know, federal government will pay for the first 3 years at 90%, but teaser rates go away. So states are very skeptical about that expansion. Texas, you probably read the governor saying, no, we got to find a different way to cover those people. So you're seeing that. I think 7 states have arrived at that. And fewer doctors are seeing Medicaid patients. So having a system where you have the coverage, but you don't have access to someone that treats you, same result, you're in trouble. And so we got to figure out a way where we can cover, especially working families who can't afford insurance. We really got the non-working families covered, and the ones who can afford it. It's the working earner families that still don't make enough to pay health care. That's got to be the focus. So, and on Medicare, I think the challenge there is to keep in place the system we have today for those who are 55 and older. So people like my mom in Medicare, she's already used to it, knows how it works. For those people getting ready to go into it, leave it the same. People are comfortable, let it go. For the next generation, for the younger workers in this crowd, we need to give you different options. You know, you need to have the ability to pick a Medicare plan that's right for you, where you get basically the government pays an amount to you. So if you've done very well in life, you'll get less. You know, if you're on minimum wage or less, you'll get more. But bottom line, you'll have a plan you choose that you take with you, you know, and can change. So if you give people that option, it actually drives down healthcare over the horizon very well. In fact, we do it in Medicare Part D, the prescription plan. That's how that's designed. A whole bunch of companies bidding for our seniors business. You pick a plan that's right for you, and you get help accordingly. That's sort of the model already in place for the rest of Medicare. And that way we can make sure it's in place for you, if that's what you want to use. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and the same with Social Security. We got to preserve it. It's in serious trouble. We had a meeting with Social Security accountants, the trustees, 2 weeks ago. They said, A, Social Security's never been in worse financial shape ever since it was created. Secondly, the deterioration of the last year is the worst in 20 years. They said if you don't fix it soon, it's not going to be here. So, and that's a case where, again, we can keep it in place for those in Social Security today. We got some good options for younger workers to give them real value. You know what I mean? A real Social Security account in their name that they control, that if they pass away early, can go to their family. So there's, but we can't delay. The biggest enemy to all this is to sit on your hands, stick your neck in the sand, and don't act. That's one of the key questions I really think here. You'll decide at the ballot box if you're a member of Congress. I'm just dying to tackle these issues because they're the big ones. Why don't we do it? Every year we delay. I'm at my time limit. Sarah was supposed to tell me, but I didn't see it from the clock. Let me finish with this story. And it really sort of relates maybe to this in a way. Are you aware that, you heard about the Lone Star Honor Flight? It's where they take our World War II veterans who served our country up to Washington to see the new memorial that was designed to honor their sacrifice. In Texas, the Lone Star flight started with a middle school teacher from Montgomery, Brenda Beaven, who she said, we're going to do that here out of Conroe. She talked her students into raising money, then community. Now they've finished 5 flights. All of them are really remarkable. They occur the same way. They have buses that meet at 4 o'clock in the morning in the dark at the Target parking lot in Conroe. The community's there to wish them well. Each one of the veterans, because they're old, because 1,000 of them or more are dying each day, they have a young escort with them. They put them on the bus. The Patriot Guard riders escort them to Bush. They fly them to Washington. They go to the monument, lay a wreath at the Texas column. They see a couple other monuments, fly home same day. Long day. They get back about 2 in the morning. Every flight, same thing happens on the way back. All those young escorts, snoozing, all those veterans, chattering away, talking, reconnecting. They tell us it's one of the best days of their life. Well, every one of these honor flights, I meet a hero or two. The last one, the 5th flight, Just as they were boarding, these two women came up and said, "Can we introduce you to our dad? We think he's a real hero." I said, "Absolutely." I met Mr. Billy Trio of Trinity, Texas. Turns out Billy Trio was the youngest serving Marine in World War II. He enlisted when he was 13 years old. He was shot in his first combat at age 14 years old at Guadalcanal. 2 more battles, the Battle of Saipan, seriously wounded, hospitalized for 8 months. He survived, finished his full tour of duty 2 weeks shy of his 17th birthday. I know, we have young ones too. It's just hard to imagine. I went up to Trinity, had the opportunity at the American Legion Hall to present the Purple Heart he had earned at the Battle of Saipan. And we're all in awe, his family, his friends, his veterans, the community. And he said, "Look, I'm no hero. This is what Americans do for each other. This is what we do for freedom." I had coffee with him a little while ago, and he said, "You know, I'd go back if they'd let me." I mean, that's the way he thinks. Same time I met Billy Trio, I met Sergeant Eddie Wright from Willis. You may have heard of him. 2004, serving in Iraq, rocket-propelled grenade hits his vehicle, blows off both of his arms, tears a hole in his left knee, bleeding out. Still managed to call in help. Still managed to save his unit. The community came together to build a home for him. You may have heard Helping Our Heroes. Houston-based group, that's amazing. All volunteer. So we're in a room about this size. We've raised the final $80,000 for his home. He takes your microphone. Good-looking guy, all-American. Says, you know, from time to time, people will just say or ask, you know, if you could go back that day, if you could avoid that RPG, if you could have your life back together, you know, wouldn't that be something? And he said, my answer always is absolutely not. He said, I wouldn't change anything. He said, the American public, Texans, he said, they're so appreciative of my service. They're so appreciative of what I've done. He said, I actually now know more about the freedoms I was fighting for than when I was fighting for them. And the reason I tell you about Billy Trio, Sergeant Eddie Wright, is, you know, I've decided if you're looking for the greatness of America and the size of its government, you'll always be disappointed. Always be disappointed. If we're looking for the greatness of America among our people, among our veterans, among our community, you'll never be disappointed. We need to stop looking for Washington with solutions on everything. If we look among ourselves, look among the around at the innovation occurring in this building, on this floor, we rely more on that, we're going to be fine as a country. We're going to do great as a country. We've got sign-up sheet. If you want to get on our e-newsletter list, if you want to communicate with us, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, the whole deal, let us know. I really appreciate you letting me come here today. Cyberonics is so impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and break. But, thanks for turning out. Have a good. You're welcome.